Unfortunately, Hello, Mr. Fedorch.
I think we're going to do that now. So I will call the Northern Lehigh School Board meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded. The recording will be posted on the Northern Lehigh School District Media YouTube channel. All votes this evening will be roll call votes. And a reminder to you board members that when you make a motion or a second, please state your name first. Thank you very much. If we now can stand and pledge the flag in our own way right now, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, may we have roll call, please?
Certainly. Mr. Disler? Mr. Green? Ms. Heckman? Ms. Husak? Here. Mr. Keegan?
Here.
Mr. Kern?
Here.
Ms. Culp?
Here.
Ms. Martineau?
Here.
Mr. Fedorcha?
Here.
We have 6 present this evening.
Thank you very much. As always, public comment is acceptable and is restricted to the agenda items. Anything after that you would have, I will recognize you at the end of the meeting. As per our board policy, all registered participants will be provided a period of 5 minutes for each public participation. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question any board members individually. Participants will be muted until it's their turn to speak. Mr. Hill will announce the name of the participant to speak. Mrs. Wagner will announce, and I'm not sure that this is true, so I'm going to count on you, Mr. Hill, that the 30-second remaining time you would announce if that should happen.
Yes, Mrs. Wagner is on and will handle the time.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Mrs. Wagner. We kindly ask that once you have spoken, you please remain muted to allow the consideration for the other participants. Mr. Hill, we will now proceed with the participants. Are there any?
Okay, Mr. Fedorcha, yes, we have 3 participants. All 3 are not speaking to an agenda item, so they will be addressed at the end of the meeting. The guests are Jason Check, Connie Check, and Pauline Grady. And all 3 we will address at the end of the meeting.
Okay, and you'll remind me of that, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we shall move on then. And now I will accept a motion to approve the minutes of the April meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Bob Kern.
Do I have a
Mrs. Culp,
second?
second. Donna Culp, second.
Thank you. Any questions, changes, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler? Mr. Green? Ms. Heckman? Ms. Heckman? I thought I saw her come on. Maybe not. Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, then we will go into our special board reports. Mrs. Huzak, you're on again. Cardinal Lehigh Intermediate.
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha. Not too much to report this evening. Just want to give an update. Hope to see Dr. Stoker June 22nd at Old Homestead. It is our golf tournament for the Special Needs Foundation. So that is the IU's tournament. We are having it this year, unable to have it last year. So we look forward to seeing anybody out. A lot of end of school year type things going on at the IU, going through budgets, boards, updates, more to come on a lot of that information. We have passed some of that with use of some of our facilities, Peters Elementary being one of them. So they're continuing to work through those and prepare for summer programs and prepare into what the fall looks like already towards the end of the school year. So graduation schedules will come out. They should be out here shortly if they have not already been released to the districts. That's all I have, Mr. Fedorcha. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The only thing I have to report right now on Lehigh Career and Technical Institute is that our budget has been passed by the districts. The only district that has not approved our budget, and because it doesn't really matter at this point, we have 70% of the votes in of the other districts, was Allentown, but our budget is now approved. Moving on, legislative, Mrs. Heckman, I don't know if you're on yet.
Hi, everyone. Apologies. I am on.
Oh, I see.
There's no
in front of me. Go ahead.
There is no report this evening. No report this evening, Mr. Fedorcha.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then, Mr. Green is not on, so I will say there is no community college report at this time. Moving on then, you have the committee minutes in your packet. And we will now move into our student report. I don't know who is going to go first, Mr. Williams or Mrs. Craddock? Are they on, Mr. Hill?
I'm here, Mr. Forga. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Unfortunately, Paige couldn't be with us tonight. She's actually at her softball senior night game tonight. So
I see that now on my schedule. Thank you.
Yeah. So first on tonight's report, and fair warning, we had a busy month here at Northern Lehigh, so there's a lot to talk about tonight. The Student Council held their blood drive on Thursday, April 29th. Due to regulations this year, the blood drive had to be held at the stadium instead of the gymnasium. And we had 2 Miller Keystone bloodmobiles come to gather the blood donations. And despite the circumstances of the year, we were thankfully still able to receive a large amount of blood from some very generous donors. So a huge thank you goes out to them. Also, last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and all the high school teachers should have received brand new Northern Lehigh travel mugs. So I hope all the teachers enjoy their new mugs, and I would like to thank them for all the hard work they have done throughout this very challenging year. The Northern Lehigh High School Art Club will be hosting an open-air event showcase on May 20th. This event will showcase artworks from our in-person and virtual students on the sidewalk in front of the high school from 6 to 8 p.m. And since we didn't report on the Artist of the Month last month, it was Haley Evans for the month of March, and it was Haven Moore for the month of April. And the slate took home 9 awards from the PA Press Club 2021 Student Journalism Contest. They won a Best Opinion Piece with honorable mention to Cody Gravertz and Ava Rosario. Feature Story, second place for Ava Rosario, and third place to Owen Levan Mueller. Column and Blog, where first place went to Avery Diaz. Cartoon and Comics, where second place and honorable mention went to Chase Jones for his submission in the September 2020 and October 2020 editions, respectively. And also Single Page Layout. First place for their front page submission, So Close, and honorable mention to their front page submission, We Are Women. So a huge congratulations goes out to all the members of the slate. Northern Lehigh High School is inviting all interested parents and guardians to participate in a free virtual STEP or STEP classes provided by the Center for Humanistic Change from May 18th to June 29th. Systematic training for effective parenting is an interactive parental approach to parenting and handling challenging behaviors. Rehearsals for this year's Mr. Northern Lehigh competition have already begun, and this year's contestants are Caleb Hankey, Kenneth Dyer, Dylan Miller, and Brenton Kapowski. The competition will be able to be streamed by their public at the end of the month, and we've also worked it out that high school students will get to watch it in class later at the end of the month too. And I was able to be at one of the rehearsals last week on Wednesday, and it was really funny, and I think it was really cool to watch. So I think Northern Lehigh is in a really big treat with this year's competition. Keystones will be held at the high school from May 18th to May 27th, and the rest of the high school will operate on a 2-hour delay schedule on those days. Also, AP exams began on May the 4th, and they will conclude on May 14th. The Northern Lehigh Middle School brought home the Best School Spirit Award in the 2021 Lehigh Valley's What's So Cool About Manufacturing contest, which featured the Fragrance Manufacturing Inc., or FMI. So a huge congratulations to Mrs. Frank and Mrs. Chamberlain for their team at the middle school. The Patriot Club is also currently conducting a raffle to support the VA Medical Center on June 2nd. The senior prom is going to be held on May 15th. It will be a movie night, and the students have had the opportunity to vote on which movie will be watched. The final three choices are Central Intelligence, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, or Avengers Infinity War. And the prom court for the prom comprises of Alexia Mankos, Brianna Hoppus, Emily Hunsiger, Julia Wanamaker, Kristen Gelcher, Maggie Wrights, Natalie Keller, Shayna Mazoka, Taylor Haight, Joey Abadelli, Caleb Hankey, Evan Zambo, Brendan Smay, Brenton Krompowski, Charles Wilk, Bill Gurman, Ryan Hammond, and Elijah Jakovitz. And at the prom, senior gifts will be distributed, and they will be available for pickup at the main office for any seniors who were not able to attend, and that will be available from May 17th to June 11th. The prom is also free of charge to all seniors, and food and popcorn will be provided on that night. The junior picnic will be held on Saturday, May 22nd at Eagles Nest Park. Lunch will be provided for all the juniors, and many fun activities are currently planned for them. Also, the senior picnic will be held on Thursday, June 10th, starting at 12 p.m., and that will be held at the Skeet Club. Senior graduation will be held Friday, June 11th. Before the graduation ceremony, there's going to be the high school awards ceremony, which will take place at 5 p.m., followed by the graduation at 7 p.m., and the rain date for both of those events is June 12th. And then for spring sports, girls track and field are 3 and 6, and boys track and field are 0 and 9. And they both have their league championship meet tomorrow. So best of luck to all the athletes competing in that competition. Baseball is currently 1 and 13 in leagues and 1 and 17 overall. And softball is 4 and 11 overall and 5-11, or 4-11 in leagues and 5-11 overall. Sorry. But that should conclude our report for tonight. Thank you all so much, and I hope you all have a good one.
Thank you, Aiden.
You're on mute, Mr. Fedorcha.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I didn't want you to hear my chiming here at the on my on my clock while he was talking, so I put myself on mute. Anyway, again, thank you, Mr. Williams. I really appreciate that. Is there anyone who has any questions for him? Seeing none, Mr. Hill, I will ask you this question. The dates that Mr. Williams has stated, are they going to be on the website?
Yes. All important information will be on the website.
All right.
I got most of the information when you go on the Northern Lehigh page. Go to the high school page, and then there should be a document that says like Northern Lehigh end of year events, and that's got a whole spreadsheet of schedules and dates and everything that you could possibly need. So that's probably worth checking out.
I figured that, but I thought I would just ask so that everybody understood that. Thank you. I do appreciate that to both of you. Okay, then we shall move on, and now I will welcome and introduce our solicitor, Mrs. Smith. And I will turn it over to you, Avery.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have a brief update that I promised I would pass along from the legal world. There is a case that some of you might have read about or heard about out there right now that originated in the Third Circuit, which is our federal circuit. And it's called BL versus Mahoney Area School District. It was the case of the cheerleader who had Snapchatted a picture of herself holding her middle finger up and typed out some obscenities towards the school district regarding the fact that she hadn't been appointed to the varsity cheerleading team. She was very upset by this, and she was suspended by the coach from the cheerleading team because of the Snapchat. She sued the school district based on violation of her First Amendment rights. And so this is a pretty big case when it comes to school districts and freedom of student expression. A lot of this case law has been developing for many, many years. And the landmark case on this came out of a case called Tinker versus Des Moines from 1969. So you can see, that these cases don't come along that often. So she sued the school district, and in June of 2020, the Third Circuit, again, the one that we're in, held in favor of the cheerleader. And so the school district appealed that, and the next level of appeal from that court is the Supreme Court of the United States. So again, we don't see this that often, so our office, of course, is following it. They had streamed the oral argument in this case on April 28th, so, a week and a half ago. Some attorneys in our office did watch that. Oral argument at the Supreme Court level is an opportunity for the Supreme Court justices to ask specific questions of the attorneys involved, and then the attorneys to highlight points of the case that they believe are especially important or worth emphasizing. Again, kind of bringing this full circle, the Supreme Court has to make a decision about this case by the end of June of this year. So we don't have too much more time till we're going to get a decision. What we're looking for from this case is Tinker said that a school district could regulate student speech that happened, related to a school event or on school property, or a school-related activity when that speech caused a substantial and material disruption to your school district. What this case is asking is, what if that speech is completely off of school grounds? This student was not at a school-sponsored event. When she Snapchatted, she was not on school grounds. And so, it's interesting because obviously in 1969, judges weren't looking at regulating none of us were considering regulating student speech in the era of technology that we're in now. So the question really is, if this substantially disrupts your school operations because it upsets people, but kids are doing it electronically instead of doing it at a school-sponsored event or on school grounds, what's your ability to regulate that? So obviously we will be watching this very carefully. I'm sure we will put something out. If those of you who are already aware, aren't already aware, we put all of these on blogs on our website. And I know there's an article up right now about the Supreme Court oral argument. So as soon as we get a decision, we will put something on there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Smith. Any questions for Attorney Smith? Anyone?
Yes, this is Mrs. Martineau. Mrs. Smith, what's the website that interested people could check out? What is your firm's website?
Okay, so if you go to kingspry.com, KINGSPRY.com, and then I'm looking at the article right now. I think I'm just double checking that it's under, yeah. And then at the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see the word blog. Click on blog, and like the article I'm talking about right now is the third article down because we're always publishing things, but you'll find recent things in there.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Anyone else? Again, thank you, Attorney Smith.
Thank you.
We'll move on then to our Assistant Superintendent's report, Dr. Stoker.
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha. Good evening, everybody. This evening, I'm going to talk about our summer learning academies. This summer, we plan to hold summer learning academies at Northern Lehigh to address learning loss caused by the pandemic. As discussed last week at our Education Policy Committee meeting, the programs will run for 6 weeks, Monday through Thursday, from June 21st through July 8th, with the exception of July 5th for the holiday, and again, July 12th through July 30th. Breakfast and lunch will be provided for all students. Students will be benchmarked prior to the program beginning and at the end of the program to gauge achievement and growth. The elementary schedule will begin with arrival at 8:30, breakfast, and 3 blocks of instructional time in reading, math, and recreational time, then lunch and a closing activity before dismissal at 1:30. The secondary schedule is similar, with arrival and breakfast at 8 o'clock, 3 classes, lunch, and then dismissal at 12:15. All students are welcome to attend, but we are highly encouraging students who are in danger of failing or retention, or those who are currently receiving Tier 2 or Tier 3 interventions through our MTSS system to attend. The current curriculum will include the use of adaptive learning platform at the elementary level that meets students at their level and continues to grow them academically. At the middle and high school levels, curriculum will be from content area courses. Daily attendance is expected, and all student rules will remain in effect. Transportation will be offered to students in the district at the beginning and end of the school day. If students at the secondary level are only participating for a course or two, they can be picked up or remain in a study hall until the end of the day. Principals are in the process of getting information out to families in their buildings, and we are in the process of hiring our staffs to meet the program needs. These programs are completely free to Northern Lehigh students, as they are being fully funded through the ESSER 3 grant with set-aside monies for learning loss. So we highly encourage all students that are interested in attending to do so. We hope that this program continues for multiple years. The ESSER 3 funds run through September of 2024, so we can at least run this program for 2021, 22, 23, and then also the summer of 24. So we're hoping to at least run the programs for 4 years. I'd like to thank the entire administrative team, our faculty, our staff, who all came together to essentially create a summer program in a short amount of time. So we're very excited about this program, and we hope that students attend over the summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stoker. Are there any questions for Dr. Stoker? Anyone? Did I see somebody's hand go up?
It was my own hand. I was trying to
It was
hit
your
the,
hand.
the
Okay,
mute
never
button,
mind.
and I raised my own hand.
All right, you don't want to ask yourself anything, do you?
I'll answer my own questions.
Thank you. All right, well then we'll move on then to our business manager's report. Mrs. Molitoris or Mrs. Franz, who's first?
Well, tonight we're going to give an update on our proposed final budget that will be on the board agenda for approval this evening. And I believe Mr. Link will start it off, and Rhonda is going to page through the PowerPoint for us.
Thank you, Mrs. Molitoris. So again, we're going to revisit. Not much has changed since the Finance Committee last week. But we thought it prudent that we walk through the budget presentation knowing that there's an agenda item on later this evening to vote on the proposed final budget. Okay, Rhonda? Again, a quick walkthrough of how COVID-19 has affected our current year budget. The PCCD COVID grant, we were awarded $182,692. We have completed expenditures of that grant, and that helped the PCCD COVID and the PCCD COVID-2 help for items such as the bionic ionization devices, as well as other PPE type equipment throughout the school district to help ensure, our buildings are as sanitized as possible and to prevent and mitigate the spread of the virus. We also have completed the ESSER 1's funding, which was a requirement before we go into the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funding. That was at approximately $325,000. Again, everything from PPE to equipment to professional development to help us kind of progress as well as possible through the pandemic. We continue to spend down ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, which altogether is close to $4 million. ESSER 3 has to be expended by September of 2024. That comes with some supplant opportunities, which is not too common in these type of grants. But it also requires that we set aside almost $590,000 specifically to be spent on addressing learning loss. So Dr. Stoker just spoke of some of our summer programs, and the first large chunk of that almost $590,000 will go towards this year's summer learning loss programs, the summer learning academies. Some potential savings. The good news is that we have saved money on paying for substitute teachers, either day-to-day subs or permanent building subs. The bad news is that is because there are no subs to go around. Northern Lehigh, like most other school districts, is struggling to get the numbers in our substitute pools back up to where we would like them. That issue existed prior to the pandemic, and it was just magnified and increased by the pandemic. We continue to realize savings in our utilities due to the previous ESCO project directly related to our electricity usage and spending, as well as our heating oil. Effects for the budget year that we are working on. And this is you, Sherry.
Yes, it is. Hi, this is the Act 1 index for that the IFO put out. That's the Independent Financial Office. They put this out in February 2021. They set the 2021 Act 1 index at 3.4%. And then they projected every year going forward. If you see in the 24-25 year, it starts to project downward. Ending in 25-26 at a projected 3.1. That is because the thought process is that it's going to take a couple years for us to start to see the effects from COVID and the unemployment and the SAL and all that other numbers that are taken into consideration when they figure out our Act 1 index. So we will continue to monitor this. The Independent Financial Office puts these projections out every year. So we will continue to monitor it to see where these projections are ending up at. The other one is PCERS. PCERS updated their projections last June, and they have not been updated yet. They'll be updated in June of 21. But these are the PCERS percentage rates projected for the next 5 years. 2021 school year, the upcoming school year, it was projected to be 34.95. The actual is 34.94. And if you can see, it does continue to rise through the 2025 school year. So it is eventually supposed to start coming down, but at this point in time, up through 2025, it is still increasing.
Okay, again, just a quick look at our district profile. You can see our enrollment over the years, as far back as 2018 and 2019. We're still projecting our kindergarten class to come in somewhere between 110 and 120, although I think right now we're at about 85 fully registered students. But we know that always grows, sometimes right up until the last week before school starts, sometimes even right after the first week of school ends. Our employee profile, you can see that we're recommending we have 108 support staff, and that's to be funded out of the general operating budget. We're recommending 124.5 professional staff. That's because we're looking to redistribute the responsibilities of actually one of our retirees listed tonight for the English Language Development Program and Gifted Education Program. Through the ESSER funding, we're so far recommending that we add some positions in, and that's 5 paras, and we'll see which buildings we're recommending they're assigned to, and 2 technology integration specialists. Administration, we're keeping at 6. We're recommending right now to keep at 16, and a total of 255.5 employees going into the next school year, with some of those being funded directly through the ESSER funds. We would have to make decisions at the end of that time when the ESSER funds are expired or expend if we want to continue with those positions in the district.
This is our compliance data from prior years, expenditures and revenues. The red are our expenditures, the blue is our revenues. We are anticipating this year having more revenues than expenses, and we're currently looking at probably putting somewhere around $750,000 back into our fund balance. We agreed not to raise taxes at the December board motion with a resolution that to not go over the 4%, which is our adjusted index for Northern Lehigh. We did not apply for any exceptions, which we could have applied for exceptions for special education and PCERS. And our anticipated fund balance at the end of the 2021 school year, I'm anticipating to be somewhere around 10.5 million.
Okay, now we're going to look at each school and some recommendations as it relates to their budget. For Peters Elementary, again, we're recommending 2 additional support staff or instructional paraeducators. They would be funded through the ESSER funds. We're also recommending that we relocate 1 professional staff position to Slatington Elementary School based on class size. So that would be to follow this year's current 2nd grade class or the rising 3rd graders. we would need to have an additional classroom teacher at Slatington to receive that class. We're also recommending no budgetary increase for materials or programs. And we're also recommending that the playground equipment upgrades are desired, and administration is considering action to be funded through ESSER funds. And Mr. Schneiderite and Mr. Durr have been working together to find the best possible equipment to put out on the playground, because our children really need to get back out onto the playground and have safe, dependable equipment to utilize during recess. At Slatington Elementary, again, we're recommending 2 additional support staff there, instructional paraeducators, to be funded through ESSER funds. And that building would receive a position relocated from, a professional position relocated from Peters Elementary School as described in the previous slide. And we're recommending no budgetary increase for materials or programs at Slatington Elementary School. At the middle school, 1 additional support staff, an instructional paraeducator, again, to be funded through the ESSER funds. A reduction of 1 professional position, and this is that English language development program / gifted teacher, or teacher of the gifted, through attrition. And we need to adjust responsibilities of the remaining staff, and this could also help us to adjust specials in the middle school. We're still kind of working through this right now, but it could potentially even to offer an additional special not yet offered at Northern Lehigh Middle School, and no budgetary increase for materials or programs. The high school, we're recommending status quo for support staff and professional staff, and no budgetary increase for materials or programs. And again, here, we wanted to make it clear that we are recommending 7 positions be funded through the 23-24 school year through ESSER funds, but with the understanding that these positions could potentially go away when the ESSER funds go away. Going into that last school year, administration would have to make a recommendation to the school board as to whether we would want to make those part of our general operating budget moving forward.
So 2021 budget concerns for expenditure sides of things. So our cost drivers are our salaries. Our salaries are up $208,000, almost $209,000 this year. Our retirement PCERS is up $131,000, and our medical insurance is up almost $29,000. Charter schools are in the 21-22 budget will be up about $456,000. 1920, we were at 1.2, almost 1.3, and our projections for ending this year, we're going to be somewhere around 1.7 that we would have paid out to charter schools. Our technology budget, we are increasing by $50,000. That we have been increasing every year to build that reserve that we need for the replacement of our one-on-one initiative at the high school, which will come up, I believe, in 2 more years. And LCTI is an increase of $75,000 this year. LCTI did go under some major renovations down there with a new welding lab, and our expenditures there that we pay them is based on our student enrollment. So our student enrollment down at LCTI has also increased as well. Cost reductions, where we've taken some expenditures away, is our electricity. We did drop $25,000 in electricity. We did receive our heating oil and bids, and we're going to, on the final budget, I was not able to do that yet today, but our final budget, we will be able to probably cut somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000 back out of our heating oil. And we did have an outplacement student who aged out, so we are seeing a $25,000 cost reduction in our outplacements as well. So what does our current budget with revenues and the real estate look like? Well, last year we have, over the past few years, been collecting at like a 93.75 and 94% collection rate. When COVID hit last year, there was concerns that Hasbro shared and the entire Lehigh County Consortium all kind of agreed that we weren't sure where this was headed. We weren't sure whether people were going to be able to afford to pay their taxes, if they were laid off. So we all kind of went with, I want to say, a little bit of a cautious nature. I backed ours back by 1%. we actually did to a 92.7% collection rate. We actually did end up collecting at still our 93.7% collection rate. So I am increasing that again this year back to the 93.75% in hopes that it's going to stay there. And I will continue to monitor it. We may have to adjust that in future years if we find out, as I said earlier, that it's going to take a little while for some of these effects of COVID to hit. So if that happens, I may have to adjust it later. But as for this year, we are doing it. We are collecting projection rate of 93.75. If we would happen to do a potential tax freeze so that we would keep our Lehigh County and our Northampton County tax collection millage rates the exact same, we would have a loss of $679,000 in our revenues. Per capita, we reinstated to the 1920 rates. Per capita did come in exactly where it has been falling for the last few years, so I am increasing that back. EIT collections, we cut that last year by about 15%. Again, your EIT collections is based on employees and working. We weren't sure, again, with COVID, how many people would be laid off, for how long they'd be laid off. We actually collected our EIT collections, still came in very strong. So I am increasing that back to 10%. Still, we're going to see a reduction in interest in investments. Again, the investment market is not there. But as I've been saying at our finance committee meeting, we are now in a partnership with our banking with Nest Bank. And we are earning nice interest at the local, locally from Nest Bank. So we are continuing to invest our money through them. And then our state and federal revenues, I budgeted them flat for this year. Basic ed and special ed, you're going to see on another slide that we are projected to get some increases. But the fear that everybody fears is that locally or legislatively, they're going to end up saying that school districts have got, as you saw with Mr. Link's one slide, you know, we got almost 1.5 million at the 1 point in ESSER funding. We got 2.9 million in another ESSER funding, that we think some of the constituents are going to end up saying school districts don't need this money this year because they've got ESSER funds coming in. So I have not at this point in time, I flat budgeted that. If it ends up coming to fruition, we'll make that adjustment come our June board agenda. So what do our district revenues and expenses look like? So currently our district expenses for the year, for the 21-22 school year, are going to be at a 33.79 million. Our revenues are coming in at about 33.02 million. So I'm sure it's $772,000 is our budget shortfall. Again, remember, if we would allow to increase our by 4%, we would see $679,000 in additional revenue. This is basically what our expenditures look like in a bar graph. So the first four on the left hand of your slide, you have salaries in the blue, you have benefits in the purple, medical in the yellow, and the kind of like mint green is retirement. Those three combined make up about 68% of our overall budget. So again, those are reoccurring costs that continue year after year. The other stuff is a little bit of stuff that we have control over, and I'm going to say we have control over it, but we don't have a whole lot of control over it because our heating bill still has to be paid, our oil still has to be, we still have to pay for oil, we still have to pay for bus transportation. So although we do have some control over it, it's not a lot of control. Go ahead, Rhonda. And this is what our revenues look like. As we always say, our local is our share of our revenue. Our local is collecting a little over $18 million this year. State is some little over 12, almost 13 million, and then we get a little bit of money from federal, about 800,000, and then fund balance if we happen to use. Currently, I have built some fund balance in there to be used. So what's fund balance going to look like? So at the end of this June 2021, we're anticipating it to be somewhere around 10.5 million. The yellow section in the center is what we're recommending at this point, if we would happen to use out of fund balance, that would to be, if we used all this out of fund balance, then we would not raise taxes. We do have a tax increase currently built in because, again, we can come back, we can never go up. So with that taxes, with the 4% being built into the budget, we know we can go down. So we can adjust these numbers if we want later to offset what we might want to increase taxes for. So again, here we have our expenditures, 33,796,000. Our revenues at 33 million. Our budget shortfall is 772,000. I'm recommending we use $131,000 out of PSERS. We have money in committed fund balance for our PSERS increases, so we're recommending using that. And then we also have the medical in there also for medical increases in the committed fund balance. We're talking about using almost $29,000 for that. And then our budget shortfall then is still $602,000. So at that point in time, the board has to decide whether they want to raise taxes in order to meet that $612,000, or if they want to use fund balance in order to offset that. If we do take everything out of fund balance, we'll end next year, ending June 2022, with about $9.7 million left in our fund balance. Again, as I said earlier, these are the revenues budget that the governor has proposed for us to receive in basic ed and special ed. So almost 117,000 in basic ed and about 233,500 in special ed subsidy. Again, these are not in our budget. If we end up determining that we think it's going to stay and we add them in, that's 612,000. When we put these revenues in, we're down to about $300,000 needing to balance our budget. So this is a moving target right now. The state doesn't have to pass their budget well beyond when we pass ours, and sometimes they're supposed to pass it by June 30th and it's into July or August till they pass it. So it's a moving target at this rate. We have to wait to see if Hasbro does a really good job of keeping their pulse on Harrisburg and what's happening out there. And they make recommendations to us as, yeah, you guys are going to get it, or no, I wouldn't budget it. Right now, it's still all up in the air, but I do have a feeling that they will keep their pulse on it and they will let us know if this is going to come to fruition for school districts.
Okay, thank you. So our administrative recommendations are for the board to consider a tax increase and utilization of fund balance to generate some revenue for the upcoming year. And that's a decision that will have to be made ultimately come June. Our transportation subsidy, we continue to work with Brandywine Transportation Company to make sure that our fixed costs for the 2020-2021 school year is not affected. So in other words, we get our full subsidy going into the 21-22 school year. And currently, Mr. Durr and Mrs. Multhorst are working with the business office at Brandywine Transportation to verify all those numbers. Also, we're looking to continue to look for opportunities to decrease expenditures and or increase revenue as more information becomes available on ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funding and supplanting opportunities. However, we have to be cautious when considering supplanting opportunities because sooner or later, that's going to come back out of our general operating fund. So that concludes our budget presentation for this evening. And if there are any questions from the school board members, we'd be happy to entertain those now.
Are there any questions, board members? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Multhorst, for your presentation. And we will move on then to the superintendent's report. Mr. Link.
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha. So last week was a busy week around the district, busy in a good way, and it was officially a National Teacher Appreciation Week. But what we decided to do here was really recognize all of our employees, from support staff to professional staff to administration. So each building kind of did some things along the way, and then district-wide, last Tuesday, we treated all of our employees, no matter what their role is in the district, to a lunch. which was prepared by our food services department under the leadership of Mrs. Bonnick, and it was pretty amazing, actually. So thank you to your team, Mrs. Bonnick, and to you for organizing all of that. I know it was a lot of work in addition to what you always do every day for all of our students. Every employee also received a Northern Lehigh School District branded kind of insulated, mug, I guess you would call it. Got a lot of great feedback about those, and those are going to be very useful once all of our water bottle filling stations are installed, which we're still hopeful will occur prior to the end of the school year. That equipment, just like pretty much any time you're going to go do a renovation in a building or even in a home right now, it's really hard to get what you need right now because of the supply chain and issues with even just labor to produce what we need. But we are excited for when those are installed. So last week was National Teacher Appreciation Week. This week, our school Nurses Appreciation Week, and that's May 6th to May 12th. And, this school year, our school nurses have really gone above and beyond tending to our students and to our staff and making sure everybody stays healthy and safe. Also, Cafeteria Worker Appreciation Day was May 7th, and I know that they all received Heroes Work Here t-shirts from Mrs. Bonnick, and honestly, they are heroes because not only have they been feeding all of our students, but even just past summer, they were feeding all children in Northern Lehigh School District, and they're continuing to make sure that we're prepared to do that this summer and continue to do it on the weekends. And let's see, May 10th through the 14th is National Police Week, and I'm sure everybody's aware that we have 2 school police officers here that administration and faculty works closely with to ensure that our campuses remain safe and secure. And they also help us actually with a lot of professional development, everything from arranging trainings on AEDs to first aid to also mental health awareness, not only for themselves working with students at risk, but also to help the staff become better prepared to do that as well. Speaking of ensuring that our students are, their nutritional needs are continue to be met, I'm very happy to continue what seems to be like a weekly occurrence now to acknowledge another group that has made a very generous donation to the school district to ensure that our students are fed, not just during the school days, Monday through Friday, but even through the weekends and holidays. The Lehigh Valley Educators Credit Union just submitted a check to us today in the amount of $2,925, which again is remarkable to go towards food stability for our student body here. Some end of year activities, which Aiden had touched on previously, but I'm just going to highlight again to officially get them into the minutes. High school graduation is June 11th with a rain date of June 12th. The last student day, I'm confident now we can lock in as June 11th as well, barring any unforeseen reason why we would have to shut down all instruction in person and in remote, but that's unlikely at this point. And our last teacher day is June 14th, assuming that our last student day remains June 11th. And now I'd like to get into really what I've been looking for this evening is recognition of some of our retirees. We have a number of other retirees on the agenda this evening, but I would like to recognize some that were already on a previous agenda. And I would like to start with Mrs. Teresa Terry Sinicola, was hired full-time in September of 1987 as a secondary science teacher at the senior high school. She obtained her bachelor's degree in biology from Penn State University in 1981 and her teaching certificate from Kutztown University in 1987. Mrs. Sinicola has served in various extracurricular roles as class advisor and a game worker. And in 1997, she was named a District Outstanding Conservation Educator in Lehigh County. That's a remarkable accomplishment, Terry. Mrs. Sinicola is an excellent teacher who met the individual needs of each child as she developed their special talents, not only in the classroom, but through extracurricular activities. Mrs. Sinicola touched the lives of thousands of Northern Lehigh students over the past 34 years. Looking at our screen this evening, I even think probably some people on this screen have gone through her classroom. Looking at you, Mr. Hauser. Let's see. She truly was a gift to our students and staff. She will be dearly missed. Mrs. Sinicola will be retiring from the district at the end of the 2020-2021 school year after 34 years of service. That's remarkable. Thank you so much for your time here. It is my sincere pleasure. It is my sincere hope that your retirement years will bring you much joy and fulfillment. On behalf of the Board of Education and the school district, we will be honoring your request to have your donations split between the Slatington Public Library and the Education Foundation as a token of our appreciation for all you have done for the staff and students in this community. Best wishes to you, Terry. And I don't know if you would like to address the board or anyone tonight, but holy man, what an amazing career.
Thank you. I would just like to say thank you, and it's been a pleasure to work for the Northern Lehigh School District.
Thank you, Terry. Next, I would like to recognize, yes, thank you, cheers. Next, I would like to recognize Mrs. Alice Lieberman, was hired full-time in March of 2006 as an ESL/gifted teacher district-wide. And Alice, I think you get the award for most department name changes over the years, whether it's ESL, ELDP. It seems like every year there was a new acronym for the department and the children that you worked with. She obtained her bachelor's degree in social studies from Kutztown University in 1993, her master's degree in curriculum and instruction in 2000, and her ESL program certification from the CLIU in 2005. Mrs. Lieberman has served as the Academic Challenge 8 or ACE advisor in academic competition for many years. Mrs. Lieberman is an excellent teacher, again, who met the individual needs of every child she worked with and really strived to bring out their special talents. Many times, Mrs. Lieberman was working with our students that had some additional barriers to learning, whether it was a language barrier or whether it was a way to really accelerate and extend their giftedness, neither of which is easy, and she did an excellent job and brought 100% effort every single day. Mrs. Lieberman, again, touched the lives of many Northern Lehigh students over 15 and a quarter years. She truly also was a gift to our students and staff. She'll be dearly missed. Mrs. Lieberman will be retiring from the district at the end of the 2020-2021 school year with over 15 and a quarter years of service. It's also my sincere hope that your retirement years will bring you much joy and fulfillment and many adventures. On behalf of the Board of Education and the school district, you will be receiving an engraved apple as a token of our appreciation for all you have done for the staff and students in this community. Best wishes to you, Alice. And Alice, I don't know if there's anything that you would like to say this evening.
Just want to say thank you, and I've enjoyed coming to work every day, and I will really miss being there. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Okay, and next, Mr. David Ordner. I don't believe Dave was able to join us this evening, but Mr. Ordner was hired full-time in September of 1983 as a secondary science teacher at the junior high school. He obtained his bachelor's degree in biology and general science from Clarion State College in 1982, and his master's degree in education development and strategies from Wilkes College in 1988. Mr. Ordner has served in various extracurricular roles as head cross-country coach, head girls basketball coach, head boys basketball coach, assistant track coach, intramurals, and game worker. You name it, he's pretty much done it in his time here at Northern Lehigh School District. Mr. Ordner is an excellent teacher who met the individual needs of all of his students, whether it was in the science classroom, in the science labs, or out on either the basketball court or out on our competitive fields. Mr. Ordner touched the lives of thousands of Northern Lehigh students over, ready, 39 years as an educator here in Northern Lehigh School District. Simply remarkable. He truly was a gift to our students and staff, and he will also be dearly missed. Again, Mr. Ordner will be retiring at the end of the 2020-21 school year after 39 years of service. Dave, it is my sincere hope that your retirement will bring you much joy and fulfillment, and I know that you are looking forward to traveling the world once we're able to travel the world again. On behalf of the Board of Education and the school district, you will be receiving an engraved apple as a token of our appreciation for all that you have done for our students, staff, and community. Best wishes to you, Dave. Again, so many years of service to Northern Lehigh School District. Thank you all for everything that you have done. And let's see here. Mr. Fedorcha, that concludes the superintendent's report this evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Link? And my congratulations to the retirees. May you have good luck in the future. Moving on, we had an executive session held this evening at 5:45 for the purpose of legal negotiations and personnel. Moving on to the agenda, I will accept a motion at this time for the personnel items A through F. G, H. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go through this here. A through J. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel items A through J?
Bob Keegan, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Gail Husak, second.
Any questions on the personnel?
Mr. Fedorcha, we just need to add in a salary for Mr. Hauser.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, my tablet's not working the way I want it to work here to give me, but who's going to recommend that, Mr. Link? Are you?
Administration is recommending a starting salary of $100,000.
Okay, board members, if you can add that to Mr. Hauser's part of the personnel, and I will go back to, we do have it moved and seconded to approve personnel. Any questions on personnel?
Mr. Fedorcha, Mr. Hauser would like to make a comment.
Certainly, Mr. Hauser.
Little preliminary already, but I wanted to say thank you for the consideration this evening. I'm looking forward to jumping in as the middle school principal. I wanted to say thank you to the search committee, to the board, and also to the three principals who have mentored me in my time as an AP, specifically Mrs. Chamberlain, Mr. Velocity here at Northern Lehigh, and I have to give a shout to Mrs. Howland up in Lehighton for grooming me for this position. So thank you for the consideration. I am honored and humbled.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser. And may I say that you were unanimously chosen by the nominating committee. Okay. So now we have the personnel has been moved and seconded. Mrs. Husak, please, roll call.
Mr. Green? Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Mr. Disler? Mr. Fedorcha?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Mr. Hauser.
Congratulations. Yes, Mr. Hauser.
Thank you again. I appreciate it.
We will move on to a motion to approve the policy items A through D. Policy items A through D. Do I have a motion to approve A through D?
Bob Keegan, so moved.
So moved.
Okay. Mr. Keegan moves and Mrs. Martineau seconds. If that's okay.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none. Mrs. Husak. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Heckman?
Yes. Although I was first last time, so I don't know what order we're in.
Mr. Green was first last time. Mrs. Husak?
Just kidding, then.
Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Mr. Disler? Mr. Green? Mr. Fedorcha?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Are there any conferences, Mr. Link? No conferences. Okay, then we'll move on to curriculum and instruction. I will accept a motion at this time for the curriculum motion A through E. Curriculum and instruction A through E. Do I have a motion?
Mrs. Martineau, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Mrs. Culp, second.
Any questions? Hearing none. Mrs. Huzak?
Mrs. Husak, yes. Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Disler, Mr. Green, Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to, we have one old business item, and I will now accept a motion to approve the old business item, which is a new collective bargaining agreement recommended by the School Board Negotiation Committee between the Northern Lehigh School District and the Northern Lehigh Education. I don't believe it's Northern Lehigh Education. It would be the
No,
Support Association.
No, this is correct, sir. This is, we have to correct the dates, which were mislabeled last.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I was informed. Okay. This is to correct the dates for the Teachers Association, the Lehigh Education Association. The corrected dates now are August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve the change of dates? Do I have a motion?
Donna Culp, so moved.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Mrs. Martineau, second.
Thank you. Any questions on the change date of dates? Seeing none or hearing none, Ms. Huzak?
Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern, Mr. Kern? Thought I saw him on. Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Disler, Mr. Green, Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes. Mr. Fedorcha,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. We have a number of new business items. I will accept a motion to approve the business items A through F. A through F. And in this one, it does accept the motion to approve the collective bargaining unit agreement between the Northern Lehigh School District and the Northern Lehigh Educational Support Personnel, effective July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve the new business items, A through F? Do I have a motion?
Mrs. Martineau, so moved.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Bob Keegan, second.
Okay. Any questions on those items? Hearing none, Mrs. Huzak, please.
Mr. Kern, Mr. Kern,
Mr. Kern was having problems with his internet. That may be a reason.
can I come back to him?
Yeah, please.
Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Disler, Mr. Green, Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes. Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Okay. I don't know what to say at this point. Move on then, please.
Mr. Fedorcha,
Yes. Motion passes, I'm assuming. Okay. We will move on then to the next
Mr.
item.
Fedorcha,
Yes.
Mr. Kern just put in the chat that he said yes to the motion under new business.
Okay. Thank you
There's
very
a note
much.
under the chat. So motion passes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We'll then move on to the financial items. And I will accept a motion to approve the financial items A through L. A through L. The financial items A through L. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved, Gail Husak.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Donna Culp, second.
Thank you. Any questions on those items? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Huzak, please. Roll
Mrs.
call.
Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Disler, Mr. Green, Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes, Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you very much. Moving on, nomination now is open for the treasurer. Nominations for the treasurer. Do we have a nomination for our board treasurer?
This is Mrs. Martineau. I'd like to nominate Mrs. Culp.
Okay, Mrs. Culp has been nominated.
I would like to second.
Second.
Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I will declare the nominations are closed and congratulate you unanimously, Mrs. Culp. Again, thank you. You've been doing a wonderful job over the years, and I am very thrilled that you're going to remain our treasurer.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Fedorcha, we'll still need a motion.
Yes, we do. Do I have a motion to approve Mrs. Culp?
So moved, Bob Kern.
Do I have a second?
Second, Gail Husak.
Okay, it's been moved and second for Mrs. Culp. All roll call, please.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Disler, Mr. Green, Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes, Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes,
Motion
Thank you.
passes.
thank you. I will now accept a motion on our legal items. We have one legal item. Do I have a motion to approve that legal item? Do I have a motion to approve the legal item?
Mrs. Martineau, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Bob Kern, second.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Disler, Mr. Green, Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes, Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Okay, we will move on. Is there any correspondence, Madam Secretary?
No, none this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. The information items, there are the minutes of the Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit and the LCTI minutes for you. Moving on now to the adoption of the proposed final budget for 2021-2022. Would I have a motion to approve the adoption of the budget? Understanding that we're doing this by law, we will vote on this again in November if there's any changes. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Gail Husak, second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And just for everyone who is listening, just so you understand that again, this will be voted again in June. There could be changes to this. This is no way how we are going to end our school year and our budget. This year, it is the amount of $33,796,908, adopted with a 24.0257 millage rate for Lehigh County and a 67.9123 millage rate for Northampton County. Any questions, board members? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Green? Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
No.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Mr. Disler? Mr. Fedorcha?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I will accept a motion to approve the adoption of the legal notice for per capita taxes for 2021 and 2022. Do I have a motion to approve the legal notices per capita taxes?
So moved.
Who was that?
Mr. Kern.
Okay,
That
Mr.
was
Kern.
Bob Kern.
Okay, do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Mrs. Culp, second.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Mr. Disler? Mr. Green? Mr. Fedorcha?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're coming to the end, and I will look to you, Mr. Hill.
Okay, our first guest that signed up to speak is Jason Check. Jason, you may unmute your microphone. Please state your full name and your address, and then you have 5 minutes to address the board.
All right, Jason Check, 6519 Apple Butter Road, Slayton, PA, 18080. All right, I'd like to start by saying hello to everyone. I'm here to represent the class of 2020. I served as the vice president, and I hold that title dear. I would also like to thank Mr. Link, Mr. Velocity, and Mrs. Moltores for their help so far. So basically, I'm going to talk about a simple thing. Due to COVID, the class of 2020 had a lot of leftover funds. We had approximately $10,500. So typically, the class would spend all their money with farewell or the class trip, and even in years past, they've given out gift cards. But due to COVID, we weren't able to meet, so the funds kind of expired. So in the meantime, we talked to our class advisors, and we tried to figure out a solution there. They, at one point, told us that the money would be safe for us to use at a point after COVID was over. So originally, there was an idea to do something in December, but COVID was not even near the end in December of 2020. So we decided to basically just wait, and we talked about having a 5-year reunion and using the funds to pay for it. However, when recently acquiring about where the money is, it turned out that the money had not been saved for us. So Mrs. Moltores provided examples and proof that the state does not require anything due to COVID to change the typical rule, but that's why I'm here. Typically, the class account is closed after graduation because typically people, the class officers and advisors, that is, would spend the money or use it to donate something to the school. So I just want to also reiterate that we have spent countless hours to raise this money, and we planned on using it to fund our end of year and end of high school activities. However, that obviously did not happen. We had multiple fundraisers and we spent a lot of time on it. So it kind of is important to us that something happens with the money. So that's why I'm here to find a solution. I believe the money is in the Student Activities Fund. So we're also wondering if we can't get the money back to plan something for our future, whether we have the access to buy something for the school and basically pick where the money goes, because we would be okay with doing something for the school with it. So basically, in the end, just COVID has made this situation for us. Typically, you'd never see a situation like this. So we're wondering what solution could be made. And I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Jason, for your comments. Mr. Fedorcha, can we move on to the next one? Okay, the next person that's going to speak is Connie Check. Again, Connie, please unmute your microphone, state your name and your address. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Connie Check. I live at the same address as Jason, obviously, 6519 Apple Butter Road, Slatington, Pennsylvania. Do you want me to start right in?
Yes.
Okay. Well, basically, Jason covered most of what I was going to touch on too. The fact that the class of 2020 had in excess of $10,500, of which typically would be spent on, like he said, the senior class picnic, the senior class trip, the senior farewell, obviously all of which were taken away from them by a global pandemic. So I understand no one could have predicted or planned for such an event, but we're just asking for, I'm representing the parents of the class who spent countless hours doing countless fundraisers, beating their family and friends to death to purchase items that they probably didn't need to raise these funds. So we're just looking for maybe an exception to the rule where we can have an exception to extension to spend this money on, if they can't have it for a 5-year class reunion, if they could purchase something that the school may need, or some kind of statue or trophy case. I'm just throwing some suggestions out there so that when we look at this, we can, instead of having it be a negative impact, looking at the class of 2020 as a positive impact, where we can say, not that theirs was one of a global pandemic, but maybe a positive outcome. So that's what I'm pleading for. Basically, an exception due to the fact that school was not in session since March 13th, therefore making the job very difficult to get done, and asking for any exceptions at that point. I feel that the ball was dropped when it came to communication, and I feel that that was not a best asset of the advisory team that was leading our class officers. I don't know where the communication was dropped, but it was told to this class that they would be willing to extend it and the money would be in the class activity fund when they came and needed it. And now we've been told otherwise. So we're just looking for some suggestions. And that's basically what I'm looking for. Just, I guess, an end to a bad situation and see if we can come up with a positive solution due to the pandemic. I understand that there's rules and regulations, but I also feel that there's an exception to any rule. And as long as someone's willing to go that extra mile and see it through, I think, maybe there's a possibility we can do something for the kids. Thank you.
Mr. Fedorcha, are you comfortable if I kind of maybe respond in a minute and then also hand it off to Attorney Smith? You're muted, sir. Gary, Mr. Fedorcha, you're on mute, sir.
I'm sorry. I was going to ask you to look into if there was any possibilities for us with the legals and so forth. But if you're willing to answer right now, I will lean to you and Attorney Smith.
Well,
Thank
I'm not going to have an answer, but I'm going to ask Attorney Smith to kind of give the parameters of what we're required to work within, and then maybe
we can research it.
Any recommendations as towards how I like how you worded it, both Mr. Check and Mrs. Check. Boy, Jason, I just called you Mr. Check. I was, if there's a way that we can come a positive outcome from a negative situation. So that being said, I'll hand it over to Attorney Smith.
Hi. So we did look at this issue, and there's two things that really dictate, exceptions that you can make. The school code discusses what the funds that are raised by a class or another student group can be used for. They have to be used for certain purposes. It says related activities related to the school program, and there's certain case law that defines what the school program is. It also allows school districts to make policies on how to use the funds and timelines. So the school district in this case did have a policy on this, and that policy is Board Policy 618. And that policy dictates that the funds be used for one purpose: to promote the general welfare, education, and morale of all the students, and to finance normal, legitimate extracurricular activities of the various individual student activity groups. They can be used to finance a program of activities not a part of the regular curriculum. And so I think that at one point, one of the suggestions might have been for a class reunion, but unfortunately there is a case law out there that says that the class reunion is not an activity within those parameters. So, and finally, the policy does say that the student activity funds have to be used for the students currently in school and must be closed by June 30th of the graduation year. As everyone mentioned, obviously COVID was a very unexpected circumstance. I would say that from a legal perspective, the district can certainly make exceptions when it comes to its policy, as long as those exceptions don't violate the school code. And the school code does not dictate, by when you need to use certain funds. So as long as you could as long as you make sure that those funds are being used for activities related to the school program. And again, I would probably, run it by the solicitor's office again one more time before you take the dive. I think that there are probably some areas where you can discuss mutually beneficial ways of using those funds. And again, the district would have the discretion, the board would have the discretion to waive a policy requirement on the timeframes. So I hope that helps. And if anyone has any questions, feel free.
Gee, I have a clarifying question. Or actually, I'm going to try to paraphrase what you said. And if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Sure.
So it has to benefit the entire current student body, right? So that would be all students currently in the high school, grades 9 through 12, inclusive of all those students. I'm also hearing that, my understanding is that it can't be put towards things like capital type projects, right? Like building improvements, those type of things. Is that accurate?
I don't think that, well, first of all, I don't see anything that requires it to benefit every single student in the school. It just has to be related to the school program.
Okay.
It has to promote general welfare of your policy does say it has to be used to promote the general welfare, education, and morale of all students. So again, there's the difference between the statute, which just says purposes of activities related to the school program, and then your policy, which says it has to promote general welfare of everybody. So, what is that? Yeah, arguably under your policy, if it's benefiting, a sect of students, that's not for the benefit of all of your students. But the board would have the, again, discretion to make certain exceptions to the policy as opposed to exceptions to the statute. I would never advise you guys to make exceptions to the statute. I would agree that I would not recommend using the funds based on everything that we just went through for capital improvements.
is it feasible that the class officers from the class of 2020 could work with our current class officers to come up with a couple recommendations to bring back to the board? And then we could have, review through a legal lens, but also through, just general conversation with the school board and administration.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. You guys know better than anyone, those students and the administration, what you need. So I would come up with some potential solutions everyone's comfortable with. And then, like I said, if you want to run it by legal, one more time, we're, happy to give you an opinion based on what I just, based on the memo that we originally did on it.
Thank you, Attorney Smith. So it sounds like, I'm going to speak to Mr. Check now. Jason, are you amicable to kind of working with our current class officers to brainstorm some ideas to bring back at an upcoming board meeting, or even to send to us and we can have it vetted through Attorney Smith?
Definitely, I think that would be a great option.
Then I'm going to ask Mr. Velasquez to kind of be the liaison between this year's current class officers, and if you could work then with getting input from last year's class officers, including Mr. Check. And if we could have something, maybe at a couple recommendations, maybe by, I'm going to say 7 to 10 days prior to our next school board meeting, so we can send it over to Attorney Smith to review. Is everybody agreeable to that?
Yes, sir. I'm hearing no negatives from the board, so I would say yes, sir. And that they can bring it back to you, and if it falls within the parameters that are needed, and if the board needs to make some sort of motion because to waive the policy due to the COVID situation that we were in, which was unforeseeable and really had no control on, I would say we would bring it to the board for action next month, Mr. Link.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha. Mrs. Check and Mr. Check, thank you for your input tonight, and we appreciate your patience as we work through this process. This is a new one for us.
As much as it's been all year, new for us.
Absolutely. Okay, Mr. Hill, do we have other people online tonight?
We had one more guest that was signed up, Pauline Grady, but it looks like Pauline left the meeting about halfway through. Let me just take one more quick look to make sure I'm not missing Pauline. Yes, Pauline has left the meeting. So that is the only questions we have, the only people that signed up tonight. Thank you.
Seeing no other ones who would like to address the board, I will ask the board for a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Gail Husak.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Second, Mrs. Culp.
Thank you. I'll roll call, please.
Mrs. Husak, yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Mr. Gisler? Mr. Green? Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We are adjourned, and thank you everyone for tonight. And I want everyone to stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you very much, and good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
And again, congratulations, Mr. Hauser.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Good night.